Hey, it's Mr. Bass. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the time my boat sank, or my buddy's boat sank. I happened to be with him. I've done a previous video on this, but it was 10 years ago, and I want to kind of update a little bit because I've learned a lot of things. I've been on a lot of boats and a lot of water since then. I will just tell you real quick, if you want to read all the details, you can look up an archive of this bass fan. Here's the article. That was my buddy Chris Flint, and we were both partners on a BASS Open tournament on Lake St. Clair in Michigan. And Lake St. Clair is a pretty big body of water. It's not a great lake, but it is a lake that is in between Lake Huron and Lake Erie. And although it's considerably smaller than the smallest Great Lake, some people call it the sixth Great Lake because of its location and its size. The lake is 430 square miles, and it's fairly shallow. It has an average depth of 11 feet. And because of the fact that it's pretty uniformly shallow throughout, and there's a lot of strong winds up there, in Canada and northern Michigan, that lake can get choppy fast and it can get rough. And the day of the tournament, we were sitting around waiting for the takeoff and just getting to know each other and talking, very relaxed, very comfortable, really excited about the day. We'd both been practicing some, and Chris was telling me, I'm on them, I'm on the fish, it's going to be fantastic. So we went out there, and it was a great day of fishing. We just caught smallmouth after smallmouth. We both had great limits and were excited. And at the end of the day, we started to head back. Chris gave himself an hour and 15 minutes to get back to the ramp for the weigh-in because we were out quite a ways on the lake, and you know, he also wanted to be prepared in case something went wrong. Well, something did go wrong. The boat just would not get on plane. And finally, after several attempts of trying to get the boat on plane with no luck, I went and looked in the battery compartment in the back of the boat. I lifted that lid, full of water. The entire inner cavity of the boat, where all the batteries and everything are, completely filled with water. I was like, holy crap, Chris, it's full of water. So I grabbed a plastic cup that was on the floor, like a 32-ounce cup, and started bailing. He was still frantically trying to get the boat on plane. Of course, all the bilge pumps were running, and after, I don't know, 20 minutes or so of this, I think I got about half the water out, and one of the bilge pumps stopped working. Now, there's multiple bilge pumps on the boat, but at that time, when your boat's completely full, you need all your bilge pumps to be working. Through bailing and, you know, a little bit of prep work, we were able to get the boat on plane. But we were only able to go 100 yards or so, and then, whoom, he couldn't get on plane again. It was just like the boat just filled with a super heavy weight and couldn't get on plane. So I hop up, lift the battery compartment up again, full again, literally after just a very short stint. We're like, oh my gosh, we got a problem. So I bail, and he's trying to work on the other bilge pump. He finally gets it fixed and working. So we've got more water pumping out through the bilges, and I'm bailing. We try this multiple times. We'd get on plane, go a very short distance, and man, it'd fill up, back up, and we'd be stuck there. So it was pretty evident we got a problem. Now, the problem out in the middle of Lake St. Clair, it's 26 miles wide and 26 miles high. We were out in the middle, and cell phone service was really bad out there. And so trying to get help, we tried to flag down a couple of boats. I'd stand up on the bow of the boat and wave, and there was a channel running through the middle of the lake. It's a channel that the U.S. government keeps clear and open for boat traffic. And they have some massive marker buoys along there. We say to each other, let's try to get to one of those marker buoys. We can tie off there and, you know, maybe we'll be okay. About that time, the boat completely fills with water. So before it was just in the back compartment there. All of a sudden, the water just starts coming through the drain in the floor, up our legs and waist, and the boat's completely full. All right, this really started freaking us out because we thought, oh man, this thing's going to go down. It's going to go down. What the heck are we going to do? So it was like, get to the buoy marker, get to the buoy marker. That was the whole plan. So we just putzed along. You know, he tried to go as fast as he could, but we just could not go very fast at all. And lo and behold, praise God, we made it to the buoy marker. We both jumped off the boat onto the buoy marker, and I started calling 911, 911, 911. Could not get anybody to answer. Chris's phone was completely dead. He had no battery. I kept trying and kept trying, couldn't get through. But I had a buddy that was there with me, and he came to practice with me. He wasn't in the tournament, and he was in my bass boat. So I kept trying to send him text messages, and it, you know, failed. Basically, then I said, all right, I'm just going to make the shortest text message I can and see if he can find me. And it was basically like, help, we're sinking. I'm at the buoy markers. Now, he knew where the buoy markers were, and they were numbered. So I was able to tell him 26, buoy marker 26 is where we're at. And he never responded, so I never knew if he got it. But he actually got the message. And we kept trying, and finally, it connected to 911. We told him we were stranded. The Coast Guard came out, rescued us.
U.S. Coast Guard coming to save us. We are trapped on buoy 26. Had better days.
You guys doing all right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. No injuries or...
Give me some distance.
You got 3 feet, 2 feet in
feet,
closing, 1 foot, contact.
Got a hand on.
Slippery, so.
Yep. All right. Both on board.
Hallelujah. And just about the time the Coast Guard came to rescue us, my buddy pulls up in my boat. So we had 2 sources, and you know, luckily we survived. I don't care if you're on a big boat. I don't care if you're on a John boat, a bass boat, a kayak. You always have to assume the worst. You always have to assume this boat might capsize. It might sink. And best case scenario, other than nothing happening at all, is, well, it may not sink, but I may fall out, or it may flip over in the case of a kayak. So you've got to be prepared for these kinds of emergencies. Never, ever, ever think it won't happen to you. Do not be careless. Always wear your life jacket. Now, this is kind of no-brainer. Got to have a PFD, right? We even had rules in the tournaments. You all have to have a PFD. Well, Chris had a PFD. It was total crap. It was one of these inflatables. I don't know how long you'd had it. 10 years, 15 years. I mean, luckily it did inflate, but it was on its very last leg. Now, I did have a good life jacket, so we were good there. But it became very evident to me. These rollers, these swells were high enough that if the boat went down and we were going to have to be in the water, those swells were so high that if you didn't have a solid life jacket keeping your head up out of the water, you were in big trouble. So always make sure you have a very good life jacket that is in great condition. And if you've got an inflatable, inflatables are supposed to be inspected on a regular basis, at least once a year. So I will do that. And the way you do it is you inflate it. That means your cartridge is ruined and you got to buy a new cartridge. And so guys don't want to do that. But I inflate it once a year, and then I leave it inflated for 24 hours to make sure it holds the air for 24 hours. And if it does, you've got a good inflatable life jacket. But to tell you the truth, inflatable is still risky. You're really better off going with a PFD that's a solid membrane, solid material that you don't have to fill with air. The next most important thing that we were really bad about is having the proper communication tools. We both had cell phones. We did not have chargers. We were not charging them. Chris's phone was completely dead. My phone only had 10% battery life when we got to the buoy markers. And I had no way to charge it. Now you might say, how could you be so stupid? Yeah, I was asking myself that question as well. How could I be so stupid? But it's just one of those things. You get careless, you get casual. Really, really dumb move. In addition to a cell phone, you should have a power source to plug that cell phone into, whether it's the boat directly or a portable battery. You need to have power for that boat, for that phone. And the other thing you need a radio. You need a radio that will reach the Coast Guard, especially if you're on big water. Do not go out just with your cell phones. Just like I showed in this example, we were in the middle of the lake. I had no cell phone signal. I had to try over and over and over and over just to get to emergency services. And luckily I finally did, but there's no telling how long we would have sat out there on that buoy marker if I didn't have a signal. If we had a VHF radio, there's always someone on the other end listening for distress. That's the Coast Guard's #1 job. We did not have a radio. Get a VHF radio, guys. Along those same lines, something I strongly, strongly encourage is having some type of EPIRB. In other words, some form of device that you can, usually you pull a plug, or when it gets wet, it floats, and it sends out a radio signal to emergency services to come and get you. You don't even have to pick up the phone and call. Some people would say that's overkill. I don't think it is. The third mistake we made is having no way to bail water. A little plastic 32-ounce cup is not good enough. And we also had no backup in case the bilge pumps fail, which in this case it did. The guys who know, the guys who are experienced, they carry a spare or multiple spare bilge pumps in their boat in case the main bilge pumps fail. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I keep this in my boat now. It's a waterproof box. Look what it has in it. A bilge pump, a long hose, and it's already got a couple of clamps to just clamp on either my trolling motor batteries or my cranking battery so that I can pump out water if the main bilge pumps fail. And even if they don't fail, if it's coming in at the rate it was coming in that day at Lake St. Clair, you want this running anyway. In fact, you probably want more than one of these. And always have some sort of container that you can bail water with. And hopefully it's big enough that you can get a lot of water out quickly. Another thing you should have are noisemakers and flares. We were so far out that a noisemaker, a horn, any of that kind of stuff really would not have helped. But far, far off in the distance, there were pleasure boaters that would go by every now and then. And like I said, I was up there jumping and waving, and my arms, they didn't see us. They went right on by. If we'd fired a few flares in the air, we'd have gotten somebody's attention, but we had no flares. Big mistake. First, you want to try to keep from sinking. Second, you want to communicate help, like to emergency services. Third, you want to be seen immediately. Any way you can get visibility, do it. And I think flares are probably the best option out there. If you've got any ideas or suggestions, please put them in the comments so that we can help other people not make similar mistakes. Know how to swim. It is surprising how many people will get on a boat and get out in the water and they really don't know how to swim, or they're scared to death of the water. You need to be comfortable in the water. You need to know how to swim so that you do not panic when you get in the water. I'm not an Olympic swimmer, but I'm very comfortable in the water. And as long as I had that PFD, I would at least be comfortable knowing that I could probably survive until help gets to me. Another great idea is to take a boating safety course. They will teach you a lot of these procedures, and they'll also teach you the basics on how to properly navigate a boat, drive a boat, to avoid getting into situations that could really be dangerous to you or to your passengers. Before you get on the water, inspect the boat. Just walk around. Look for holes. Look for scrapes. Look for dents. Look for rub rails coming loose. Make sure the drain plug is in the boat properly. Some of these things, like I say, sound very elementary, but they really could be the difference between life and death. What happened in this instance, what caused the boat to take on so much water, is that the top cap of the boat, which is screwed into the hull of the boat, had separated. And anytime we would go forward, the rub rail was loose, and the boat was separated around the bow of the boat, around the front. So every time we were going forward, water was being pushed inside the hull of the boat, and we had no clue it was even happening. Now, would we have spotted that if we'd inspected the boat early in the morning? I don't know, but it couldn't hurt. So taking a quick safety check around your boat and just looking for holes or cracks or anything like that might really save your bacon. Next, check the weather. Know what the weather's going to do. Make sure you have an ability to continue to verify and check the weather throughout the day. Most of your phones, if you got service, that'll work, but you need to make sure that you clearly understand what the weather conditions are going to be like when you're on the water, and be prepared for bad weather if it should arrive. Another super obvious thing that so many people fail to do over and over and over. I can't understand why so many people are lazy, because this is just laziness. They don't wear their kill switch. You've got to wear the kill switch. Anytime you're firing up that motor, wear your kill switch. It is absolutely crucial. Next, leave the booze at home. Guys, alcohol and boating do not mix. It's a bad idea. You can relax and enjoy yourself and imbibe as much as you want when you get back to shore. Don't take the liquor on the boat. Leave it at home. It's just a really, really bad idea. And that should be common sense as well. All right, last thing, which may not be as common sense as you think, but definitely needs to be mentioned. Stay with the boat as long as you absolutely can. A sinking boat that's still floating, similar to the one that I was in, is much safer for you than just being out floating in open water. As I was talking about, when the big swells come and go, you're down in the troughs of those swells, nobody's going to see you at all. You could get run over. If you're attached and holding on to a big bass boat or whatever boat you've got, even your kayak, that's a flotation device that will help you stay floating much longer. You'll be much easier to see in the water, and your life definitely may be preserved by staying with that boat. Stay with it as long as you absolutely can. And there's a lot of boats, a lot of the shorter boats, especially on the bass side, have foam in them. They're foam filled, and so they won't necessarily go to the bottom. They will completely fill with water, completely submerge, but they're still there under the surface, and you can stay with them, and you'll probably be fine. Just like the boat we were on, it never went to the bottom. We were terrified that it would, but when the Coast Guard came, they said, no, it probably would have been fine. You guys probably would have just been fine if you just stayed on the boat, even though it was full of water. I like the buoy marker idea better, to tell you the truth. But stay with the boat as long as you can. It's much safer than just jumping into open water and hoping you get found. That's it. That's how to protect yourself if your boat takes on a bunch of water, if it capsizes, if it sinks. Don't think to yourself it will never happen. Think to yourself, when is it going to happen? And that way you'll be prepared And being prepared is what it's all about. Let's face it, we get out on the water because we love having fun. It's about having a good time. You don't want it to end in tragedy. Do the right thing, take the precautions, and live to fish another day.